our presentation. Today we will be meeting 5 men who played an important role in the Indiana history, each leading up to statehood.
My name is George Rogers Clark. I was a young man living on the frontier of Virginia. I wanted to stop the Native Americans and the British from attacking American settlers in the West. I asked for permission to start a militia. A militia is an army of civilians. I was granted that permission. I knew that the British still had troops in Vincennes at Fort Sackville. Henry Hamilton was in charge of the fort. I thought I could capture the fort in a surprise attack. In the winter of 1779, my men and I set off from an American fort at Kaskaskia in what is today the state of Illinois. We headed east toward Fort Sackville. The journey toward Fort Sackville took us 18 days and was very difficult. Snow had melted and flooded the land. Cold rain fell and there was little to eat. We marched through water that was often up to our waist, and we slept on bare ground. When we reached the fort, my small army of men crept to the top of a hill. My small army of men marched back and forth waving our flags. Henry Hamilton and his soldiers saw the flags. They thought they were being attacked by a much larger American army. Henry Hamilton had thought that no American army would attack in the cold winter. My men shot on the fort at night. Our aim was so good that the British were afraid to return fire. Soon, Henry Hamilton and his army surrendered. The men and I had taken back Fort Sackville. While my men and I were trying to take control over the West, war was also raging on from Canada to South Carolina. Years later, President Thomas Jefferson asked me to explore the land west. I declined, but my brother William took the job. Maybe you have heard of the Lewis and Clark expedition.
I'm Anthony Wayne. I became a leader during the Revolutionary War. I led the United States Army against the Native Americans. I built forts and trained the American Army in Western Ohio. My men called me Mad Anthony because I'm not afraid to take risks. My enemy leader called Little Turtle heard about my strong leadership. He called me the Chief Who Never Sleeps. In 1794, I fought the Miami without the leadership of Little Turtle. The Battle of Fallen Timbers took place on the Maumee River in present-day Ohio at a spot where a tornado had knocked down many trees. My army had many more soldiers than the Native Americans. My troops defeated the Native Americans in about an hour's time. The Battle of Fallen Timbers led Little Turtle and other Native Americans leaders to sign the Treaty of Greenville on August 3, 1795. The Treaty of Greenville required Native American leaders to agree to give up land in the eastern part of the Northwest Territory. In return, the United States promised to let the Native Americans live in the western part of the Northwest Territory. They also agreed to pay the Native Americans for the land they were giving up. Many Native American leaders refused to sign the treaty. Among them was Tecumseh, who later caused much trouble for the American settlers and army. They had hoped to keep all their land. However, many American settlers felt the Northwest Territory was safer after the treaty was signed. The Treaty of Greenville was important because it established a firm boundary between the land belonging to the Native Americans and American settlers. The new land in the Northwest Territory is now open to American settlers.
I am Tecumseh, a Shawnee chief. The white men are pushing us off our land. Governor William Henry Harrison keeps taking more and more of our land. White men trick us. They threaten to go to battle if we don't sign their treaties. Governor Harrison and I had a meeting at Grouseland in Vincennes. I wanted to teach Harrison a lesson, so I kept crowding him until he had to get off of the bench. That made him mad. The meeting failed. Each of us left and prepared for bloody war to come. My brother, the prophet, and I went to Prophetstown to gather in our Indians. Harrison gathered 1,000 men to march toward Prophetstown. While I was out gathering Indians for a cause, Harrison thought he could surprise my brother. While I was gone, my brother attacked Harrison's camp first. After a few hours of hard fighting, my brother and his forces retreated. The Americans burned our village and crops. We were more devastated than ever. After that, the War of 1812 broke out. I joined the British and fought against the United States. Harrison led his American army against me in the Battle of Thames. An American officer shot me, and I died on the battlefield on October 15, 1813, and with me, the dream of regaining our lands died too.
My name is William Henry Harrison. After my father passed away, I joined the Army. I was sent to Fort Washington in the Northwest Territory. My commander, Anthony Wayne, noticed that I had courage. I worked and trained hard. Our job was to clear the Indians and the British out of this vast Northwest Territory. In 1794, at the Battle of Fallen Timbers, I fought a brave Indian chief named Little Turtle and another named Tecumseh, who will later become a major pain in my side. Little Turtle and many other Indians signed the Treaty of Greenville, which ended the Battle of Fallen Timbers. It said that the Indians would settle on the western part and the American settlers would settle on the eastern part of this territory. Tecumseh did not sign this treaty. In 1800, Congress divided the Northwest Territory. Part of it became the Indiana Territory. This territory included most of the Northwest Territory besides Ohio. Congress made me governor of the Indiana Territory. Tecumseh and I met up again in 1810 for land sales. These meetings were doomed to fail. One particular was at Grau's land when Tecumseh tried to push me off a bench. I was mad. That was the end of our meeting. On November 7th, 1811, the Battle of Tippecanoe began when Tecumseh's brother Tenskwatawa and his followers attacked my camp on the Tippecanoe River. After a few hours of fierce fighting, there was no clear winner. The Indians retreated. My men and I burned Prophet's town and their crop fields to the ground. The Indians had no place to come back to. In 1813, Tecumseh and his followers teamed up with the British during the War of 1812. I took my forces along the Thames River in Canada. Tecumseh was killed on the battlefield. After his death, the Indians gave up their fight and retreated. Now the American settlers are free to settle on the western part of the Indiana Territory.
My name is Jonathan Jennings. I have represented the territory of Indiana for many years. It has been broken into two main territories, the Indiana Territory and the Ohio Territory. The state of Ohio has already been established, and I am working hard to establish the state of Indiana. The December 1815 census showed that the Indiana Territory had a population of 63,897. Hallelujah. Now we shall apply for statehood. Indiana began its formal road to statehood when I traveled to Washington, D.C. to ask President James Madison to sign an enabling act allowing us to write a state constitution. The next step to statehood. When I returned, 43 delegates, including myself, worked for over 2 weeks to write a state constitution. We worked at the Capitol building in Corydon. It got so hot we had to work under an elm tree outside the Capitol building. We are quite proud of our work. It would give the residents of Indiana freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the right to a trial by jury, and would allow no slavery in our new state. I proudly return to Washington, D.C. to present the finished Indiana Constitution to Congress. Congress accepted it, President James Madison signed it, and Indiana became the 19th state in our great nation on December 11, 1816. After returning with the signed Constitution, I was elected the first state governor of this state of Indiana.
Thank you for attending our presentation.